Hi there, this is Victory Olaleye. With the help of an AI tool, I've been able to put some of my podcast releases into conversation. And so the things that we've discussed in the past are made in easier conversational style. Listen, it's going to really bless you. Here's the first one.
Okay, let's unpack this. We are starting today with one of those questions that, usually clears a room
Oh, yeah.
or starts a massive fight at a dinner party. It's high stakes, it's ancient, and honestly, it keeps a lot of people up at night. The question is, well, it's deceptively simple. Can a person lose their salvation?
It is the absolute heavy hitter of theological debates.
Hmm.
I mean, you've got people on one side saying,
Once you're in, you're in.
right, exactly, once you're in, it's a done deal, sealed and delivered. And then you have others who are genuinely terrified that one wrong move, one bad week, it just invalidates everything. It's a source of a massive amount of anxiety for people.
It really is. And usually when we talk about this, we end up quoting what a specific preacher said or maybe what a denomination's handbook says. It becomes this battle of
But
traditions
it gets messy fast.
really fast. But today, we're doing something different for this deep dive. We're looking at a specific lecture by Victory Olaleye. And what I love about this source is that Ola basically says, forget what the famous preachers say.
Put the systematic theology books down.
Yeah, put them down. What does the text actually read?
That is the refreshing part here. Olaleye takes a strictly text-based approach. He isn't trying to defend a specific denomination. He's looking at the grammar, the tense, the specific Greek words used in the Bible.
It's almost forensic.
It is like a forensic investigation. And the argument he builds is fascinating because it shifts the paradigm completely.
Right, it's not about a stamp on a passport that you just get and forget.
No, not at all. His core argument, and this is really the mission of our deep dive today, is that salvation isn't just a static status you acquire and put on a shelf. It is a dynamic process.
Mm.
And he uses this incredibly vivid analogy of a runner in a race to explain it.
Which we will absolutely get to, because that runner analogy, I mean, a light bulb went off for me. It completely changes the definition of what it means to win versus having won.
It changes everything.
But before we get to the track, we got to look at the evidence. And Olaleye starts with what I'm calling the if clause.
The if clause. This is really where the rubber meets the road in his argument. Olaleye pulls up 3 specific scripture verses. Now, these are texts that a lot of people might just, skim over.
Right.
But he points out a pattern. They all share one very small, very conditional 2-letter word. If.
So let's look at the first one. This is Hebrews chapter 3, verse 6. The text is, it's comparing Moses to Jesus. It talks about Christ being a son over his own house. And then it turns to the believers.
Right. And here's the crucial phrasing. It says, whose house are we identifying believers as the house of God? But then it continues. If we hold the confidence and the rejoicing of the hope firm unto the end.
Okay, hold on. Whose house are we if? That really drags the parking brake on the idea of an unconditional status.
It really does.
So being part of the house is actually conditional.
That is exactly Olaleye's point. It doesn't say whose house we are, period. It says we are the house if we hold that confidence firm unto the end. It links the identity of being in the house to the action of holding on.
Got it.
The grammar makes the status contingent on the perseverance.
Okay, but playing devil's advocate here, maybe that's just one verse, right? I mean, Hebrews is a really complex book. Maybe it's a translation quirk.
You'd think that, sure.
But then he brings in the heavy artillery. 1 Corinthians 15, verses 1 and 2. And this is the passage that defines the gospel itself.
This one is even more direct because Paul is writing to the Corinthians specifically to define the gospel, by which also ye are saved. Sounds great, right?
Yeah, you are saved. Past tense. Done.
But then comes the caveat. Olaleye emphasizes this part. If you keep in memory what I preached unto you, unless you have believed in vain.
There it is again. You are saved if you keep in memory.
And that phrase, unless you have believed in vain, it suggests that belief isn't just a one-time mental assent. It's not a magic switch you flip.
It has to be maintained.
Exactly. Keeping in memory implies active retention. It's not a file you save to a hard drive and never open again. It's active RAM. You have to keep it running.
That makes a lot of sense. And then, just to hammer it home, Olaleye points to a third text, back in Hebrews, chapter 3, verse 14.
For we are made partakers of Christ.
If we hold the beginning of our confidence steadfast unto the end.
It's a pattern you can't really unsee once it's pointed out to you. Olaleye synthesizes this by saying that in all 3 texts, the status of being saved or being a partaker is contingent on continuing something.
So it's not a one and done deal.
No, it suggests a conditional state. It's not a permanent, unchangeable lock that you get at the beginning, regardless of what happens next. It is a state that exists as long as the condition is met.
The holding fast, the keeping in memory.
Exactly.
So if that's the case, why do so many people believe the exact opposite, that you can't lose it?
Olaleye actually addresses a really specific teaching that I've heard before, is this idea of split salvation.
Oh, right, the tripartite view. This is a very popular way to reconcile the idea of eternal security with the messy fact that Christians still sin or screw up.
The theory goes like this. You are three parts, spirit, soul, and body. When you get saved, your spirit is instantly, perfectly, and eternally saved, sealed shut.
Like it's put in a safe deposit box.
Exactly like that.
Huh.
But your soul, your mind, will, and emotions is in the process of being saved, and your body will be saved later. So if a believer goes out and commits a crime, the theory says, well, his soul is acting out, but his spirit is still pristine and going to heaven.
It sounds convenient, like don't worry about my bad behavior, my spirit is already good to go.
It is convenient. It removes the anxiety. But Olaye's rebuttal is pretty blunt. The Bible doesn't say that.
Simple as that.
Simple as that. He argues that the scripture never presents salvation as this fragmented thing where your spirit is safe in a vault while your soul is still figuring things out.
So he takes a more holistic view.
Completely holistic.
Mhm.
You are a person. You're either saved by faith in Jesus with a hope for the new body, or you aren't. You can't slice and dice the human being to justify a theology. And he backs this up with a really interesting verse regarding the timing of salvation. 1 Peter 1:9.
Let me grab that. Receiving in yourselves the end of your faith, the salvation of your souls.
Notice the preposition there, the end of your faith. Olaleye points out that salvation is placed at the finish line. It is the goal. It is the result.
This is where he used those two words that I thought were really helpful to unlock this concept, indicative versus definitive. Can we break that down? Because that sounds a bit academic, but the application was really practical.
Sure. So think of a journey. Let's say you're taking the train to Paris. You have your ticket. You are sitting on the train is moving.
Okay, I'm with you.
The middle of the journey is indicative. It shows signs. Your location indicates you are going to Paris. You have a ticket, you are moving in the right direction. That is the state of a believer now. You are saved in the indicative sense because you are in the process.
But it's not definitive yet.
Not until you arrive. You aren't in Paris until you step off the train. The definitive moment, the final verdict, is at the end.
Mhm.
Olaleye argues that we confuse the indicative state being on the train with the definitive state having arrived. You are enjoying the benefits of the journey, the down payment of the spirit, as he calls it, but the full transaction is revealed at the end.
Which brings us to the centerpiece of this deep dive, the metaphor that ties all this together, the runner.
Yes. This is Olaleye's masterstroke in this lecture. He asks us to visualize a race.
Okay, so picture it. You have a runner. He is in first position. Olaleye says, imagine the next person is like 200 meters behind. I'm imagining Usain Bolt in his prime, just dusting everybody. He is way out in front.
Now look at that runner. Is he winning?
Yes, clearly.
That is the key. He is currently actively winning. Note the tense, present continuous. He is experiencing the win. The crowd is cheering. He feels the win. He's in the lead. If you took a snapshot right now, he is the winner.
And Olaleye connects this to faith. The believer who is walking in faith is that runner. They are winning. They are saved because they are in the process.
Right. All things being equal, if that runner continues doing exactly what he's doing, he will win. It's inevitable. But, and here's the critical question, can the runner lose his win?
That sounds like a trick question.
It's not, though.
Yeah.
Think about it. Can he lose the win he is currently experiencing?
Well, yeah, if he stops running.
Exactly. If he abandons the race, if he walks off the track, if he decides, you know what, I'm done, and turns away from the finish line.
So he didn't lose the trophy in the sense that he had it in his pocket and it fell out.
Precisely. And that is the nuance Olaleye wants us to get. A person cannot lose salvation like you lose your car keys. You can't lose a possession you fully own, but you can fail to attain it because you didn't reach the end.
Wow.
The runner didn't lose a gold medal he already had. He failed to secure the result he was on track for.
That actually clears up so much confusion because usually the argument is, well, if you lost it, you never had it, or if you had it, you can't lose it. But this changes the physics of it. You are winning until you quit.
It reframes the whole once saved, always saved debate. Olaleye is essentially saying, wrong question. It's not about losing an object. It's about abandoning a process.
And He is pretty firm on this point about abandoning the process. He mentions that the Bible doesn't teach that people who fall away were never saved.
Right. That is a common theological safety net. We
Hmm.
call it the no true Scotsman fallacy. Oh, if they left the faith, they were never truly saved to begin with. It's a way to protect the theory.
To keep the math clean.
Yes, exactly. But Olaleye looks at the text and says, no, that's not what it says.
He brings up the idea of sanctification here.
He does. He notes that the Bible speaks of people who were sanctified, which means set apart, holy in the process, who then count the blood of that sanctification as unworthy.
They were in the race.
They were on the track. They were winning. And then they chose to stop.
That is a scary thought, honestly, but also weirdly empowering because it puts the ball in your court. It's not some mystical lottery. It's about, are you running?
It emphasizes human agency. Salvation is initiated by faith. You start the race by believing. But the verdict depends on following the process to the end. Olaleye changes the question from, can you lose your salvation, to, can a runner who is winning lose the race?
And the answer is obviously yes.
If they don't finish.
So the trophy metaphor is really the final nail in the coffin for the automatic view.
It is. A winner in the middle of the race doesn't have the trophy yet. They might be miles ahead. They might be celebrating. But they don't have the object in their hand. Olaleye says a believer doesn't have the victor's crown until the course is finished.
Endure to the end and be saved. That's the quote.
That's the quote. And it aligns with that timeline we talked about earlier. Faith is the run, salvation is the finish line.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? If we zoom out, Olaleye's core thesis is that salvation is a process fully revealed at the end. We are winning as long as we stay in the race.
Correct. It's a shift from viewing salvation as a static transaction, like a ticket you bought 20 years ago. Instead, it's a dynamic relationship. It's present continuous. I am being saved. I am running.
For you, our listener, this is a pretty big pivot because a lot of people treat their faith like an insurance policy. You sign the papers, you pay the premium, and you file it away in a drawer.
And Olaleye is saying, no, it's not a policy. It's a marathon. If you stop running the marathon, it doesn't matter that you signed up at the starting line.
It shifts the focus from, do I have a security badge, to, am I still running the race?
Which is a much more active daily question. It takes the focus off the past. Did I pray the right prayer 10 years ago? And puts it firmly on the present. Am I holding fast to the confidence today?
It's definitely a perspective that keeps you on your toes.
It prevents complacency. If you think you've already won the race while you're at the 50-meter mark, you might stop running. You might sit down on the track. Olaleye's reading suggests that is the most dangerous thing you can do.
That's fascinating. It's less about fear and more about endurance.
Precisely. It's not about living in terror that God is going to trip you. It's about the responsibility to keep moving forward.
So here is where we leave you to think. If Victory Olaleye is right, and salvation is defined by the finish line rather than the starting line,
Then, here is the provocative thought to mull over. How does that change the way you view your daily choices? If salvation isn't a badge you hold, but a race you run, how does that change the endurance required in your life? Does it change the way you look at a Tuesday morning struggle?
something to chew on. If you want to dig into this yourself, check the show notes. We've linked to Victory Olaleye's full lecture there. It is absolutely worth a listen to hear him lay out the Greek and the grammar for yourself.
Absolutely. Go straight to the source.
Thanks for joining this deep dive with us. Keep running.
See you next time.